My brother and I do not get on. When we were younger, he'd go out of his way to make my life a living hell. To my parents' credit, they did tell him off for it when they caught him, but they both worked long hours and didn't have the energy to deal with our arguments. This continued into adulthood. He was salty that he failed his college course the first time around. There was a bad argument in our family a while ago, and I kid you not, it all started because I refused to decorate my brother's living room. I won't go into too much detail, but he wanted a pretty hefty discount. I said no, and he threw a tantrum. You really need to meet my brother to understand just how bad he is. But hopefully, this post will do it some justice. Instead of being a grown-up and talking to me, he decided to hook up with my toxic ex-girlfriend and the mother of my child. Due to the rules here, I can't go into a lot of detail about what she was like, but she was not a nice person. She never really bonded with our son when he was born, and I was left to do everything by myself. She eventually walked out on us and refused to have any contact with our son. She'll post on Facebook now and then about her beautiful baby boy to get sympathy votes, but that's about it. I have been a single dad for almost 3 years now, and I absolutely adore my son, but it hurts to think that one day he might question why his mom didn't want anything to do with him. How am I supposed to explain that to him? Anyway, it bothered me when my brother told me they'd hooked up together. It hurt even more when he started dating her. It had taken me so long to get over what she did to me and my child, and now my own brother was bringing her back into my life. Yesterday, we had a family video call. Parents are high risk, and we're not taking any chances, when my brother decided to announce that he and my ex were expecting. I just froze. I didn't know what to do or think. I could feel myself starting to cry a little bit, and it got a bit harder to breathe. Eventually, I decided to just congratulate them and then made up some lie about needing to put my son down for a nap and left. I received a bunch of messages from my brother and his girlfriend telling me that I stole their thunder. After I left, my parents and some other family members started worrying if I was okay and not really focusing on their news. My uncle told me that I should have just been a man and stuck it out instead of making excuses to get out of it. After all, it was expected that our kids would be raised around each other. I feel like maybe I shouldn't have left the call, but at the same time, it would have been worse if I'd stayed and had a full-blown panic attack in front of everyone. Some of the family members are split and have argued that I won't be able to avoid my brother and his family forever, but others believe I was in the right to leave that situation. I don't know what to think. Edit. A lot of people have been asking how my parents feel about this. They aren't happy, but they don't have the energy to deal with all the hassle my brother would cause. They actually cut him off for a little while when he started dating my ex, but he phoned them constantly, and again, can't go into much detail, but he said he'd do something not so good. They keep him at arm's length, but I have told them not to cut contact because of me. If they want to cut contact on their own accord, then that's fine, but I do not want to be the reason that they have to deal with his tantrums. The rest of the family, for the most part, weren't happy about it, but accepted it, or pretended to, when they started getting a bit more serious. My uncle, who told me to be a man, thought it was funny. That's just the kind of person he is. I think as hard as it might be, I am going to cut off contact with my brother and ex. As a lot of people pointed out, not for my sake, but for the sake of my son. I don't want to put him through all that. Not the idiot. I think you handled the situation as well as you can. Also, really? Your ex is going to go and date your brother and have a child with him, yet not take responsibility for her child with you? That's really messed up. I feel bad for the baby in her uterus, because what if she does the same thing to them? I can totally see this happening. Brother is a crappy person to begin with. If ex leaves him and new baby too, I can see him bawling as well. Just a horrible situation here. Not the idiot, OP, at all. Any family that takes the brother's side is terrible too. As stated in a prior post, I was kicked out at 15 for being gay. From 15 to 35, I had no contact with my family. Over the years, they have somehow managed to work their way back into my life, only in small capacity. My sister, who is younger than me, called earlier and asked what me and my husband were doing for Thanksgiving. I told her that it was just us and that we were just going to have a nice dinner and probably watch TV for the night, and go to bed early. She told me that she was having dinner and that we needed to show up. I told her thank you, but this was the first set of holidays in 10 years that I didn't have to host, and I was planning on staying home and just putting on a fresh pair of pajamas after a shower and not going anywhere. She then asked about Christmas, and I told her the same thing. She then asked when it would be a good time to get together. I told her point blank that I wasn't all that interested given our history, and that I was perfectly happy with how things were at this point. This was when she got pissed off and started yelling at me, saying that I need to start acting more a part of the family and that I need to let go of the past. She told me that we as a family need to try and bridge the gap and move forward in a positive way. I told her no, we don't. We hardly know each other. We are very much strangers. I also told her she needs to stop throwing the word family around like it is supposed to mean something to me. When we started to talk again when I was 35, when our dad died, her and my brother constantly berated me and told me that I need to just let them deal with everything that needed to be done. I never disagreed with them. I told them that they could handle it. I was berated when our mother was sick for not visiting her in the hospital or when she was at home. I really don't have much of a relationship with my mom, and she is a pretty good stranger as well, so it didn't really matter. I threw everything back in their face. Before we hung up, she reminded me that it wasn't my husband's blood that runs through my body, and blood is thicker than water. I told her no, my husband's blood did not in fact run through my body, but his S did, and that was close enough. I thought my husband was going to wet his pants. So am I the idiot for telling my sister to stop using the word family like it means something? Edit. When I was kicked out, I was 15 and my sister was 8. So she did not have anything to do with what happened. But she had every opportunity to find me after a certain point. When she was 16 and had her own car, she could have come find me. When she was 18 and on her own, she could have come to find me. She never did. When our dad died, it was a friend of mine who talked me into going so that I could maybe find some kind of peace with what happened all those years ago. She and another friend went with. My husband, boyfriend at the time, had to work and couldn't get the time off. Initially, I was greeted with surprise and thank you for coming, but then with hostility from my sister and brother. If they for a minute thought that I was out to get something from them or our dad's estate, they were wrong. I wanted nothing, and to this day, I still don't. My siblings have always told me what my place is in the family, which is basically I'm window dressing. I have been told that I have no business in knowing anything about the family finances, family affairs, or anything. I think they are afraid that I could potentially take something that they want or are supposed to get. A couple of weeks ago, my mom asked me to read over some financial paperwork that she didn't understand. Reluctantly, I agreed, but once my sister found out, she screamed at me for putting my nose in areas that I don't belong. I told my mom not to ask me for anything again because I will not be involved. I have been asked a few times why I do keep in contact with them. The answer is because it's my way of keeping ahead of them. I do not voluntarily make contact with them. I have no reason to. I keep my Facebook locked down to the point that I don't show my city, my job, my phone number, nothing. But I can see all of their stuff. This works because they post a lot, and if I see that they are having problems with whatever the case may be, I can work to make sure that if they ask for something, I cannot answer or just ignore them altogether. Plus, it does give an open avenue of communication in the event of a major emergency. Plus, maybe I still hold on to a hope that they will maybe at some time they will actually apologize. But I don't see that ever being the case. I have been asked if my mom has ever apologized. No, she has not, and she never will. She is from a generation where parents don't apologize to their kids, because that would mean they did something wrong. She is from a generation where kids were to be seen and not heard. I guess it comes down to this. My family has formed this dynamic that I will never be a part of or want to be a part of, and I'm okay with that. I was not asked to come to Thanksgiving or Christmas. I was told that I will be there. Why? I don't know. Then when I declined twice, things got ugly. Not the idiot. I feel like it would interest her to know the real saying, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Bonds formed by choice run deeper than those by relation. The last paragraph made me bust out laughing. She lost the ability to call you family when she abandoned you with the rest of them. Edit. We had such a great day, just C and I. We had steaks on the grill, baked potatoes, steamed vegetables, and a from-scratch pumpkin cheesecake. Tuesday and Wednesday, my mom and sister were tag-teaming my messenger all day and until I reached my limit and finally answered my sister. She told me when they were planning on eating and that I needed to arrive earlier. I told her point blank that I was not coming to dinner. Out of my own curiosity, I felt like something was wrong and I asked her why it was so important for me to come. They have been telling some family members that I was going to be at dinner and that everything was okay and I was part of the family again. This is important because many people from both my mom and dad's family have had nothing to do with me, but never completely approved of what my parents did to me. This was my breaking point. This put me over the edge, and I told them I was not going to cover for them and that this was the end of all of it. It was their fault for creating this issue, and they will need to deal with it on their own. I told her I was done and to never contact me again. I ended the call and immediately blocked all communication. The level of anger I have towards them is to a point I can't even describe it. But at the same time, I feel relief that they gave me a reason to terminate all communication with them. They are completely on their own. True to form, on Thanksgiving Day, C and I took showers and put on clean pajamas and watched movies all day and then ate dinner. And then, back in front of the TV. Not the idiot, OP. Holidays are a time for your family, and your husband is your family. I'm happy for you that you finally cut off the toxic drama for good. Just because you share blood doesn't mean anything. Your family are the ones who show you love and support. Happy holidays, and best of luck. I'll just get straight to the issue. My, female 33, sister, female 28, recently rented an apartment in our neighborhood. She moved out after she broke off her engagement with her fiancé of 4 years. She has a demanding job. She works long hours, nurse, and added more days' work to be able to pay rent. I'd cook her meals once, twice a week, and my husband would take them to her. I'd show up and clean the apartment for her out of respect for what she does, which is pretty stressful. I knew she had been struggling, so I did all I could. She'd come over whenever she has a day off, to thank us for giving her meals and helping her out with the apartment. However, after a week or so, I noticed my husband cooking whenever I say I didn't want to, saying my sister could use a homemade meal. I'd call him to see where he was, and he comes home to tell me my sister had him clean the basement so she could move the rest of her things. She called him and had him carry boxes for her for a whole day. She'd call him and not me to bring her a charger because she forgot hers at work. It's like she completely forgot about me. I went to have a talk with her and she barely found the time to speak with me. I asked her why she didn't call me when she needed something but kept calling my husband. She said she didn't notice and that I must be busy with my son even though my husband would help with him too. I told her to call me if she needed something and let my husband get some rest from working all week. She said okay, but it got too much when she called my husband's phone while he was napping and I answered for him. She told me her kitchen faucet needed fixing and was messing up her kitchen, and so she called my husband to help her fix it. I told her he was napping and wasn't feeling well since the morning, but she kept saying, "Just a few minutes, it won't take long." I reminded her that she should have called my phone, but she said that fixing the faucet was men's work. Anyway, I gave her the number of a plumber we know, but she complained about plumbers taking a lot of money. I snapped and told her my husband isn't her husband that she can call whenever she needed something. That just because she lives near, she gets to have him work for her. She got upset, and I haven't spoke to her since this conversation. My mom knew and berated me saying she's my younger sister, that she's going through a lot and I need to help her. She told me I hurt my sister with my comment and that I needed to apologize to her. Edit to say that she rented a ground floor apartment. It has a strange room that looks like a basement and it's obvious she's struggling with rent because I think it's expensive. But it was her decision, so I can't comment on that. Also, those of you asking about her calling her landlord to handle maintenance, I honestly didn't think about it because I never lived in an apartment and I don't know whether her landlord is even aware of these issues, as she'd quickly resort to us for help. But I'm definitely bringing up to see what the issue is. Not the idiot. But, are you sure she really needed him to fix the faucet? Spontaneous basement cleaning seems more than a little suspicious as well. It also sounds like the husband isn't telling OP where he is either. Like she said, she would call and ask where he was. Then he'd admit to being with the sister. That's sketchy to me. Why wouldn't he tell OP beforehand if he really was just cleaning the basement? My, female 38, son, 9, has a medical condition. We're struggling so much trying to do everything we can to help him deal and cope with his condition. It's been difficult enough without my mother-in-law getting involved and making decisions without talking to me and my husband first. She'd completely disregard our fears and concerns as parents and claim we don't know what's best for her grandson by trying to control doctor's appointments, arguing with doctors, criticizing and telling them how to do their job, bringing medication that her friend doctor prescribed without even diagnosing my son. She'd get mad if we don't comply and do what she tells us. Her latest stunt was showing up at my son's appointment and making a scene, resulting in me and my husband going no contact and changing the clinic by having my son's medical file transferred to another clinic. My mother-in-law was removed from any emergency contact we had before, and we made it clear to the new doctor to not share our son's medical information. My mother-in-law kept trying to find out what clinic, which doctor our son goes to, and she tried to guilt-trip my husband and also get the family to pressure us into letting her know. No one realized the negative effect she had on my son's health and progress, and the family kept calling me awful and resentful because she just worried for her grandson. Last week, I found out that my mother-in-law was at the clinic and was speaking to my son's pediatrician about my son's condition. My husband told me his mom called and told him she was talking to the doctor discussing our son's condition. He told me that he didn't want to speak to his mom, but she called to let him know that she has a right to take part in her grandson's care and that we shouldn't try to hide things from her since she eventually was able to find out. I was livid. I was so angry. I went to talk to the doctor about the conversation she had with my mother-in-law and the fact that she disclosed medical information after being told several times that this would cause us plenty of issue because of my mother-in-law's behavior. Mother-in-law is already trying to get involved and I just couldn't take it. I reported the doctor and filed a HIPAA complaint. I was told to back off, but I couldn't take this massive lack of professionalism on the doctor's part, and the fact that now I'm having to deal with my mother-in-law's attempts to control the situation. My mother-in-law spread the news about the doctor and the whole family was stunned, saying my bitterness jeopardizes the doctor's career and that she only shared information with my son's grandmother, not some stranger. Also said that I'm not being focused on my son and choosing to start arguments instead. Basically, made it look like it's my fault. I'm so tired and I can't take it anymore. My husband agrees that I shouldn't have filed a complaint. Like he has no problem with his mother now showing up at the clinic and causing scenes. Information to add here. My son goes to a licensed medical doctor. Mother-in-law says she knows a doctor that happens to be a friend of hers, but I'm not sure if he even has a license or even works at the hospital or clinic. We were never told who he was or even met him before. But that was before the fight we had with her. She no longer mentions him and is focused on getting directly involved with my son's care. Not the idiot. This is never okay, but I'm just wondering if perhaps OP is not treating her child with medicine and instead going to holistic doctors. I just can't fathom why the mother-in-law would be this crazy about the medical treatment. Then there was mention of court intervention, which I know can be done if there's a lack of medical treatment that is endangering a child. It would affect my views if this were the case, but no one is mentioning it. If that's not the case, then mother-in-law is most completely out of line and OP needs a restraining order or something. Either way, it's not okay for anyone to ever violate HIPAA.